Japan, a nation known for its affinity towards cultural preservation and a steady rise in technological advancement, has surprised the world with its sudden development of one of the world's biggest sixth-generation stealth fighter jets called the Mitsubishi or Godzilla F-X. How does this jet change the future of aerial combat? Could this cutting-edge technology trigger an arms race in Asia and globally? Join us as we discuss Japan's aerial beast, the Godzilla F-X, and its impact on modern warfare. The debilitating effects of World War II on Japan cannot be overstated, especially with the atomic bombings of main cities like Nagasaki and Hiroshima in August 1945. The bombing played a major role in the surrender of the Japanese Axis in the Second World War. After these bombings, Japan did not remain the same, which isn't much of a surprise since its populace was vastly depleted and its economy was wiped out. After the war, the country signed a peace treaty with the United States that forced the United States military to occupy Japan. In fact, Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution ensures that Japan cannot build an army or maintain military forces for offensive purposes, which essentially prohibits them from using war as a way to maintain order or implement policies. Hence, sudden reports of creating a cutting-edge fighter jet that could impact the future of modern aerial combat seemed completely out of pocket, as no one saw it coming from a pacifist country. Some believe that the growing threat in Asia might have triggered their sudden decision to improve their military defenses. The Mitsubishi F-X was developed by the Japan Air Self-Defense, becoming the first ever domestically developed stealth fighter jet in Japan. The jet is primed to replace the Mitsubishi F-2 by the mid-2030s. However, the burgeoning question remains: how did Japan suddenly come up with an idea for the F-X, since Japan's effort to purchase the Lockheed F-22 fighter jet had been frustrated by the United States' 1997 Obey Amendment, stopping it from exporting its fighter jet? Japan chose to replace their aging fleet with locally made fighter jets. The F-X program took flight on March 2017 when Japan and the United Kingdom signed an agreement to co-develop a future fighter jet. No one really saw Japan's international relations extending as far west as the United Kingdom, but desperate time calls for desperate measures. By 2018, the Japanese Ministry of Defense had a decision to make on the place and model of production of this new production. While they tried to figure that out, they reached out to the United States too, seeking their participation in the creation of an aerial beast like no one has ever seen. As expected, they had offers from top aircraft companies, including Boeing, Lockheed Martin, British Aerospace Systems, and Northrop Grumman. Each of these top aerospace companies had all types of brilliant ideas towards creating an aerial war beast. While Japan was desperate to replace its outdated fleet, it also wanted to make sure that it was on its own terms and on its own turf. As expected, Boeing came with an offer to create an upgraded fighter jet based on their F-15 model, while British Aerospace Systems offered an upgrade on their Eurofighter Typhoon. Japan wasn't having any of it, as they wanted something made locally. They also had no luck with Lockheed Martin, who proposed an F-22 and F-35 hybrid jet. While it sounded like a fantastic idea, it wasn't exactly what Japan wanted: a sense of originality. Hence, they turned it down. Northrop's ideas were no different either. The Japanese Ministry of Defense had completely ruled out the possibility of basing their new aircraft designs on existing models in 2018, but not before giving some consideration to Boeing's F-15 and British Aerospace Systems' Eurofighter Typhoon. Upon their assessment, both jets just didn't meet the Japanese standard. The military of defense considered Lockheed Martin's hybrid stealth aerial combat vehicle, with a collaboration of both the F-22 and 35, but their main concerns stem from the potential cost of the jet, with a whopping $177 million tag estimated for it. Also, the United States banned the exportation of the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor in order to safeguard the secret of its technology. As you can imagine, that decision was a bit of an eyesore to Japan, which didn't have its own military and relied on the United States for protection. Hence, they weren't sure if taking on a hybrid of the F-22 and 35 would get the same sanction on exports, so they chose not to take the risk. In 2019, the Japanese military reached a final decision about the future of their fighter jet program, announcing that the fighter jet project will be led by Japan, and that while collaboration with other nations isn't ruled out, they will only be a supporting cast. The Japanese Ministry of Defense was very specific about the features they wanted on the next fighter jet, including the capability for future air superiority, the potential to expand capability by incorporating next-generation technologies, affordable cost, and more importantly, the participation of Japanese industry. On the 21st of August, 2019, Japan announced that its fighter jet project would commence in 2020 between April and December, which will be in tandem with the fiscal year budget of 2020. The following year, Japan rejected more designs proposed by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and British Aerospace Systems. Amidst their decision to include a local Japanese industry in building the fighter jet, the Ministry of Defense enlisted the help of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, who took the reins of the operation. According to the Acquisition, Technology and Logistics Agency, otherwise called ATLA, the Japanese Ministry of Defense has not ruled out the possibility of international collaboration, even though the conversation for basing their new technology on any of their old ones is a complete non-starter. The Acquisition, Technology and Logistics Agency spokesperson Jane in 2020 reiterated without fail that the Ministry of Defense believes that they have developed enough technology to build the F-X locally. By April of the same year, the Acquisition, Technology and Logistics Agency established a dedicated team to develop the F-X, but a major general will lead it from the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, who have also dedicated about 30 men to the cause. While the Japanese moaned for freedom to build their own air force in their own way, they still wanted input from other nations, especially the United Kingdom and Italy, which is quite ironic as these two contributed to their downfall during World War II, which relegated them to becoming a pacifist country. On the 9th of December, the Japanese government entered into an agreement with the United Kingdom and Italy, where they merged their concerted effort towards the production of a sixth-generation fighter jet. During the building phase of the Godzilla F-X, the common problem of building a stealth jet came into play: the design. The goal was simple. The Japanese Ministry of Defense wanted more than anything to gain air superiority, meaning that they prioritized size as much as they did stealth. The American F-22, whose exportation was stopped from the United States, ranks among the biggest stealth fighter jets in the world. But the Japanese Ministry of Defense wanted the F-X to be even bigger, but with sixth-generation features, earning it the nickname Godzilla from Bradley Parrott at Aviation Week, a New York-based publishing and event production company owned by Informa. The company was owned and published by McGraw-Hill until it was purchased by Penton Media in 2013. It is quite a paradox that the F-X design prioritizes size, as it is supposed to be a stealth jet, meaning it could literally fly under the radar and avoid detection for as long as possible behind enemy lines. However, the Ministry of Defense has explained its reason for prioritizing size for a stealth jet. The large size indicates that the aircraft possesses very long range and large payload capacity, meaning it could be armed with really heavy missiles and could carry it over a long distance and drop it without fail. Takeru Kano, the Minister of Defense, has also justified the supersize of this supposed stealth jet, boasting that it would carry even more missiles than the massive American F-35 jet. While Japan designed the F-X, they used a three-dimensional mock-up system to simulate a test version of the F-X, creating a simulation of the assumed function and performance, and then installed a research battle simulator developed by the Technical Research Division. The simulated F-X was fed data on stealth, avionics, and engine characteristics. After creating this mock-up, the Japanese Air Force pilots tested it for air-to-air combats, testing the effectiveness and giving their honest assessment on the parts that needed to be reviewed. Compared to the F-2, which uses the conventional hydraulic engines, the F-X electric actuators. The actuators are just as functional as the hydraulics, which then brings the question, why fix it when it isn't broken? The Japanese Ministry of Defense had a perfect response, imbued in the difference in complexity between the hydraulics and the electric actuators. The Japanese intelligence is quite convinced that the complexity of designing the interior of the stealth fighter requires a simpler approach than having to build the hydraulics. It is a stealth jet, after all, hence they needed to account for the shape of the aircraft just as much as they prioritized size. Hence they considered the internal weapon bay and the air ducts, which might be a problem should they force the installation of hydraulic system piping due to design considerations such as length and rigidity. Imagine a supposed stealth jet spotted by the length of its hydraulic pipes. Hence, they chose to go with the actuators, which only needed electric wiring. While they prioritized size, they also understood the need to achieve a lightweight body structure. Hence, they delved a little bit away from the conventional use of fasteners and instead used adhesive molding for bonding composite materials. They called it the integrated or fastenerless structure technology. The FX was designed to give high efficiency and high accuracy. Hence, it was only a matter of time before some avant-garde practices were etched into its design for high performance. While the shift away from fasteners solved some of the problems of the FX's weight, the Japanese intelligence believed that more could be done to reduce the weight even further. Hence, after a long time of deliberation, the building team came up with the idea to use heat shield technology as protection for the engines of the FX. This way, they could use aluminum alloys and carbon fiber reinforced polymers in place of conventional material without sacrificing durability or performance. This breakthrough further reduced the aircraft's weight without losing any structural integrity while aiding easy maneuverability in flight. Some say it is a pilot's dream. In contrast to the F-2, which the FX will be replacing, there was a huge focus on molding and the use of carbon fiber reinforced polymer materials to reduce its overall weight. However, the molding technique required fasteners to be placed on only the bottom plates of the wings. In comparison, the FX uses adhesive molding throughout the entire fuselage. According to Japanese intelligence, the new design methods not only retain the structural integrity of the FX, but also reduce the structural mass of the FX airframe by at least 11%. While the design is prominent and has also taken over the aerial warfare space, the avionics of the FX are also second to none. One of the most important features of a stealth aircraft has always been geared towards avoiding detection while also easily detecting other stealth jets around it. To that effect, the FX utilizes integrated sensors, including the active electronically scanned array, otherwise called AESA radar, a passive radio frequency sensor, and an infrared camera. Both the active electronically scanned array and radio frequency sensor utilize a gallium nitride to improve their performances. The active electronically scanned array improves the jet's range and sensitivity, increasing its capability for detecting other stealth jets around, a trait that could come in handy behind enemy lines. The radio frequency helps to identify and locate signals or frequencies emitted by other stealth aircraft, such as radar or communication systems, which may consequently reveal their positions. The FX also possesses a self-defense system that helps it evade and counter air-to-air missiles and surface-to-air missiles. The FX jet produces both electronic countermeasures and support measures to a higher degree than the regular fifth-generation drone. The electronic countermeasure, or ECM as it is popularly called, is aimed at protecting the FX from detection and will also counter enemy jets using different types of countermeasures, including jamming the frequencies by broadcasting strong signals to overwhelm or confuse enemy radar, or deploying signals or systems that mimic the enemy's signals, making it appear as friendly when behind enemy lines or clouds in this case. However, the electronic support measure of ESM in popular parlance aids the FX with detection and surveillance on the enemy. The support measure collects invaluable data on the enemy's position, treats, signal analysis, and helps the pilot create a countermeasure from the collected data for tactical use. The main point of the FX has always been to have a fighter jet with serious stealth features. Hence, to that effect, the Ministry of Defense found numerous ways to avoid having its radar emissions detected. In a bid to minimize radar detection, they used serpentine air ducts and an internal weapons bay as opposed to the F-2's weapon bay. They also applied electromagnetic wave absorbers to the air ducts and engines, grossly reducing the amount of radar reflection. Deflecting radio waves has always been the next step of evolution for stealth combat jets, and the FX has it on lock using plasma stealth antenna technology. The antenna operates in such ways as one would describe a camouflage. It creates a temporary plasma using the features of plasma that can change its physical properties back and forth through electronic control without fail. While the FX might be lightweight, it definitely has enough structural strength and integrity to carry its own arms. In fact, the Anti-Ship Missile 3, or ASM-3, was developed specifically for the FX since the F-2 will be out of commission by the 2030s. The FX will be aimed using a directed energy weapon, or DEW, a ranged weapon that damages its target with highly focused energy without a solid projectile, including lasers, microwaves, particle beams, and sound beams. Potential applications of this technology include weapons that target personnel, missiles, vehicles, and optical devices with high efficiency. While the famous Godzilla F-X boasts of serious cutting-edge technology, the future of aerial warfare has shifted largely to unmanned aerial vehicles, like the popular carrier-based X-47B, with a view to reduce casualties and prioritize remote control from land. And the Japanese intelligence seems to share the same sentiment, as the ghost of the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombings from World War II still stalks them closely. Therefore, losing more people is never an option for the Japanese Ministry of Defense, especially if it is avoidable through technology available to them. Following the design of the F-X, the Japanese intelligence decided to introduce their one unmanned combat aerial vehicles, otherwise called the UFO, that can operate alongside the F-X as some sort of shadow guide. The program is called Combat Support Unmanned Aircraft. The drone is rumored to bear a semblance in functionality to the Kratos XQ-58 Valkyrie or Boeing Air Power Teaming System project, in which the drone acts as a loyal wingman to the F-X. The Japanese intelligence have decided on creating two drones, one that carries a sensor and scouts for targets, and another that fires the munitions and directs any incoming threats, including air-to-air or surface-to-air missiles, away from the parent aircraft, which in this case is the F-X. For Japan, the F-X is a way back into the economic powerhouse that once was before the Hiroshima and Nagasaki explosions during the war. While the Godzilla F-X might revolutionize aerial combat, it might also be Japan's way to claw back into the spaces where its name was once revered. Following the end of World War II, it is rarely news that the Japanese military defense was completely crushed into oblivion, forcing them to rebuild under the supervision of the United States, which has played Big Brother for too long. While Japan might have relished it as an opportunity to rebuild their economy without worrying about their defense, the times have changed, and so has their mentality. The Asian powerhouse, under the heavy weight of American policies, has been building mainly American-licensed fighter jets, making it impossible for them to build one of theirs. The F-2 was seen as a pure Japanese fighter jet in Japan and was named successor to the old Mitsubishi A6M0. However, the political pressure from the United States forced their hands toward a co-production, which didn't suit the Japanese intelligence. Therefore, when the idea for the sixth-generation F-X came into play, the Japanese legislature and defense officials tried to cover their bases properly this time and avoid a repeat of the controversial F-2. This time, they have secured their ground and decided to create their fighter locally, and in case there is a collaboration, a Japanese company, particularly Mitsubishi, will take point. While developing the jet locally gives a sense of pride and accomplishment to the Japanese intelligence and their people, there are doubts swirling around their competence and experience in creating a fighter jet domestically. Reputable individuals like Air Marshal B.K. Pandey, former Air Officer and Commander-in-Chief of Training Command of the Indian Air Force, noted that the F-X will likely face technological challenges as the technologies used in fighter jets have become more complex over the years. The Godzilla F-X jet is on schedule to take over the F-2 in the 2030s. However, as of January 2025, it has not been tested yet, but the first prototype has already been made. Whether Japan's first locally made sixth-generation fighter jet takes over the aerial warfare globally, or gets crushed under another piece of paperwork like the F-2 remains to be seen. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.